Is this the dagger?
G'day guys, JB here. Well, Game 6. That's about the only positive you can really say out of it, because it was, well, both overwhelming and underwhelming in many facets. For a game that was expected to be the end of the NBA Finals, has now put a kink in the road, you could say, a twist in the tail, you could say, of the 2025 NBA Finals. What was expected to be the ending of the Indiana Pacers was an absolute romp of a victory to the Indiana Pacers, to the point where they've now forced Game 7. An 18-game difference has now seen a 7-game series as the Indiana Pacers all but destroyed the Oklahoma City Thunder, winning the game eventually by 17, but that was certainly by no means anything close to how this game truly reflected the result. 108-91. Pacers winning this one in a rout, forcing a Game 7 back in Oklahoma City. And there was production left, right and centre. 6 double-digit scorers for the Pacers. Of course, leading them off the bench, Obi Toppin, another big game. 20 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, 6 of 12 shooting, 4 of 7 from deep, 4 of 6 from the line. You had Andrew Nembhard, 17 points, 4 assists, 3 steals, 5 of 7 from the field, 3 of 5 from deep, perfect from the line. You then had the most consistent player for the Pacers this series, and for me, will win the Finals MVP if they win this series, Pascal Siakam. Big game from him, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block shot, 6 of 14 from the field, 1 of 3 from deep, perfect from the line. And despite a nagging injury, just presence alone, a huge factor. Pascal Siakam, 14 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 rebound, 5 of 12 shooting, 3 of 7 from deep, 1 of 1 from the free throw line, in just a dominant display for the Indiana Pacers. On the other side of things, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we thought he'd had his worst game of his playoff career until, well, Game 6. 21 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 8 turnovers. Huge from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 7 out of 15 from the field, didn't make a 3. 7 of 8 from the line. And slim pickings from there. 16 points to Jalen Williams. 3 rebounds and assists, 3 turnovers, 6 of 13 shooting. Didn't make a 3. 4 of 5 from deep. You had 11 points there coming off the bench for Isaiah Joe. 11 points to go with 1 rebound, 1 assist. 1 turnover, 3 or 4 from the field, 2 or 3 from deep, perfect from the line. You then had 10 points from Isaiah Hartenstein. He also had 4 rebounds, an assist and a steal with a block, 3 or 4 shooting, perfect from the line. And that is about as favourable as it got. Pacers, a really tight first quarter. The Thunder, they sort of trailed a little bit early, managed to fight it back. 28-25 first period there for Indiana, setting the tone. Obi Toppin, 8 points off the bench, 3 rebounds, as we mentioned, top scored in this game. A further 8 points also to Andrew Nembhard. 2 steals to go there as well for Toppin. It was 2 or 4 from deep, perfect from the line, 2 or 6 overall from the field. For Nembhard, 3 or 3 from the field, perfect from deep. And on the other side of that, Mr. Consistent, Pascal Siakam, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 1 block shot, 2 or 3 from the field, perfect from the line. And it was a competitive first half. I mean, your first quarter there, the Thunder were getting their points in the paint, starting to try and use that size a little bit more, trying to put the pressure on early, so they certainly had a nice lead there. Second chance points, they really stuck by it. 4 versus 5, trying to make the most of it where they can. Thunder leading it by as much as 8, Pacers leading it by as much as 9. So that's the kind of swing that you saw going on here. And it was very much going to be a battle of who's going to just get it done, whether it be possession-wise, whether it be defensively-wise, because by the end of that first term, things had started to really show their way. Pacers having 4 more shots. They had 5 assists on 8 makes, compared to 3 on 11 for for Oklahoma City. They lost the board battle by 2, but when you look at the defensive numbers there, 4 steals to 0. It was 2 blocks to 2, adding the extra pressure there. didn't turn the ball over. 5 turnovers to the Indiana Pacers. No turnovers from the Indiana Pacers. 5 from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it was a little bit concerning because you could see the amount of efficiency that was still coming into Oklahoma City's game. Despite it, you just wonder whether the Pacers were throwing a little bit too much at it. They went 8 of 25 from the field compared to 11 of 21. They made their threes, 5 of 14 by comparison of 1 of 6, but they were getting to the line at home. 7 out of 10 compared to 2 from 4 for Oklahoma City. And don't get me wrong, you had 7 points from Shea and 7 points from Jalen Williams, but there was not much else happening across the rest of that floor for the Thunder, and that's where things started to pick up in that second term. And this is ultimately where the game was called. A 19-point swing in favour of the Indiana Pacers. You had 9 points to Aaron Nesmith, who had an assist, 3 of 5 shooting, 2 of 4 from deep, perfect from the line. You go on down to Tyrese Halliburton, who started to lift, 8 points, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 of 4 shooting, 2 of 2 from deep. You then had TJ McConnell stepping up once again, 8 points, 4 rebounds, an assist and a steal, 4 of 5 shooting, just competitive all over the floor. And yeah, you had 9 points from Jalen Williams, and you had 8 points from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but you had absolutely no production from anyone else on the team. Donuts the rest of the way. In a huge second term, 36-17, a 19-point swing after you lead by 3. That's 22 points up at the half. This game in Indiana was all but over. As much as we want to criticise Shea for that bad game and Jalen Williams for a bit of inconsistency, at least in the face of defiance, they were the only ones that stood up. And, the quarter wasn't even close in the end of it. It was 6 of 17 compared to 15 of 27. So they took 10 more shots, but they had 9 more makes. They shot 90% in those 10 extra makes. That's crazy efficiency. Didn't make a 3 for Oklahoma City compared to Indiana, who went 4 of 10. 2 of 3 from the free throw line for the Pacers, 5 of 5 for Oklahoma City. It may be the only thing they really had a solid grab on. 4 more boards for the Pacers. 8 assists to those 15 baskets. No assisted baskets in the second quarter. You look at the steal count, it was 4 to zip. Block shots were even. Turnovers 2 to 7 in favour of Indiana. They were on a roll. They're just uncanny how dominant they were at this point in time. To the half, 64 to 42, 22-point margin, as I mentioned. 3 double-digit scorers compared to 2 for the Oklahoma City Thunder, but you also had that bench production. Only 3 points off the bench for the Thunder. There was 19 off the bench for Indiana, and it has been the story consistently throughout this series. The bench production has been huge and credible, and that's what's been winning games in this series. When you look across the board, Indiana had 14 more shots, 52 to 38. You look at the 3 balls, they were 24 to 11 as far as attempts there. They were 13 to 9 from the free throw line, so their intent and aggressiveness, they were being rewarded. And it pretty much showed all across the board. Well, they were about the same field goal wise, 1 of 11 from deep versus 9 of 24. There's 24 points difference alone just from the 3-point line. You then go over to free throws, there's 2 more there. They led the free throw battle, they led the rebounding battle by 2 at the half. Assisted baskets though, 3 of 17 for Oklahoma City, 13 of 23 for the Indiana Pacers. They were getting reward for their ball movement. Steals wise there, 8 zip, perfect amount of comparative there with the block shots. Turnovers another factor, 2 to 10 in favour of Indiana. So they were forcing extra possessions. They weren't giving the ball up, and they were converting and getting more opportunities. Really simple stuff for Indiana. They were just an absolute war of attrition to be in favour there. At the half, you've only got to look at the fact points off turnovers. Indiana they only gave up 2. 16 points given up for Oklahoma City off turnovers alone. Points in the paint there. The Thunder were still using their size. They were up 6 there. Second chance points though, 9 to 4. So there's a couple of demoralising plays and fast break points. Indiana getting out on the run, despite the fact that the guy who has led that push all season has a calf strain. 14 to 3. This game was over by the end of the first half. It's as simple as that. It was over by that point. Third quarter, it was 26-18 in favour of the Pacers, so it was well and truly done by the end of the third term. And Obi Toppin again with a nice crucial third quarter there. 7 points, 2 steals, 2 or 3 from deep, 1 or 2 from the line. Another 7 points there from Andrew Nemhard to go with 3 assists. He was 1 or 2 from the field and deep, perfect from the line. On the other side of things, you did still see some fight out of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. He was still turning that basketball over though. He just wasn't scoring. 1 or 4 from the field, 4 or 4 from the free throw line. On the other side of that, Hartenstein also had 6. But it was all one-way traffic at this point for Indiana. They won the quarter by 8. They had an assist for every basket. Every basket that was made was assisted on. That was the efficiency of the ball movement that was going on there. And you want to add to that, they did turn the ball over a little bit more, 5-4. But then you look at the board battle, they won that by 5. You look at the steal battle, 4-2. You look at the block shots, 1-0. So they're getting reward for their ball movement. They're actively working defensively. It was just their night. 4 of 17 compared to 8 of 20. So, okay, maybe a more efficient quarter there from Oklahoma City makes that scoreboard look respectable. It was still 5 of 11 from deep for the Pacers in favour of them compared to 2 of 9 from deep. Free throw line, 8 of 8 there for the Thunder compared to 5 out of 6. But that was it. That 3-quarter time, like, the game was done. Like, at this point, the Pacers had at one point led by 30. It was there was an 8-point margin. They led by 30 at 3-quarter time. The final quarter, well, you get it. The game was all but over. It was 31-18 in favour of Oklahoma City, whose starters did not touch the floor. They ran a really deep bench. They ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different rotations in the fourth quarter compared to the bench of Indiana, who got some sparing minutes here or there. Fourth quarter, it was in favour of Isaiah Joe. 8 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 2 or 3 from the field, 1 or 2 from deep, perfect from the line. You had 7 points as well going to Jalen Williams, not Jalen Williams, which was a little bit different for him. 7 points, 5 rebounds to go with an assist. 2 or 3 from the field, 2 or 3 from deep, 1 or 2 from the line. So he tried to put him where he could. But you had another 5 points from Obi Toppin to really cap off the game that he had as well. Perfect from the field. 2 rebounds to go with those 5 points. This one was all but over. 31-18, this was the only decent quarter of basketball by comparison the Thunder had. 8 out of 10 baskets assisted on compared to 2 out of 7 for the Pacers. 50.2 from the field for Oklahoma City, 10 of 19 shooting, 7 of 20 for 35% for Indiana. Oklahoma City was certainly more accurate from deep as well at this point. 5 out of 10 from deep, 6 of 9 from the line. And that was still better though compared to the Pacers, who went 1 of 7 from deep, 3 of 6 from the line. They actually won the rebounding count, they won the assist count. Still outplayed defensively though, which does say a lot considering the effectiveness of their fourth term. In the second half, it was a 3-point, well, it was actually a 5-point swing overall in favour of Oklahoma City, which does say a lot that in your second half, where predominance of your production came from leading players on your bench, another factor in just how important that's been. But the leader in the second half, Obi Toppin, huge game, and while it was crushing essentially in some garbage time, it still has to count for something. Overall, the final box score, as I mentioned, 108-91, a 17-point win in favour of the Pacers to force Game 7. To be fair, they took 18 more shots than the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's the extra possession they got. They took 12 more 3-point shots. They took 1 less free throw. 41.3 from the field for the Pacers compared to 41.9 for Oklahoma City. 15 of 42 from deep for the Pacers compared to 26.7 for Oklahoma City. 17 of 25 compared to 21 of 26. Oklahoma City have consistently been the better free throw shooting team this season and consistently the better one throughout this series. But when you look at the rebound count, the Pacers won it by 5. They 46 to 41. They led the assist count, 23 of 38 baskets compared to 14 of 31. Passed the ball better by 9 there in that sense. 16 to 4 in the way of steals. Also reflects in the turnover rate, 10 to 21. Block shots, 5 to 4. Comprehensive win there for the Indiana Pacers. Points in the paint, Thunder won that as we expected, uses their size. Second chance points, 14 to 6. in favour of the Pacers. Fast break points 22-11 in favour of the Pacers. They were willing to get out and run. Just incredible stuff. A dominant display by Indiana to get the job done and force a Game 7. Right now, there's only 2 guys that are winning Finals MVP. If the Oklahoma City Thunder were to win the championship, it has to go to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't see how it can go to anyone else unless he absolutely does nothing in Game 7 and Jalen Williams was to get the job done in what would be the biggest game in the history of the Thunder. Meanwhile, for Indiana, Pascal Siakam has clearly been the difference. He's clearly been effective. You know, there's a few different things that are going to ride on this. I mean, Indiana potentially has their first championship. Oklahoma City, as the Thunder, potentially have their first championship. You look at Pascal Siakam and his career resume, a Finals MVP puts him in the Hall of Fame. For Shai, he's already going in the Hall of Fame. You don't win the scoring title, you don't win an MVP, not go in the Hall of Fame. That's just a given. It's a matter of how far into the Hall of Fame does he go, because he could go quite a distance with a championship, a scoring title, and Finals MVP, along with a league MVP in the one season that doesn't happen very often. There's a lot to play for in Game 7. It is in Oklahoma City. And that's going to be the real test. But to give you an idea, it would be the greatest upset record-wise in finals history if the Pacers were to defeat the Thunder. 18-game difference in regular season record. There's nothing there. And I don't want to hear about 3-1. And the reason I don't want to hear about 3-1 is because the Cavaliers went 2-6 without Kyrie and Kevin Love the year prior. Everybody said, if they're healthy, they will win next year. They were healthy. They were preseason favourites. Most basketball pundits, based on matchups, were pretty confident of the result that was going to occur. It was going to take the Cavs 7. Didn't think it was going to be 3-1. From a leading the finals standpoint, yeah, you have a case. But from a pure record standpoint of 18-game difference, with the dominant run that Oklahoma City have had from a net rating standpoint, I mean, the Pacers have got form, but history doesn't beckon them in this sense. This would be monumental. Absolutely monumental. I can't wait to see what happens in Game 7. Anyway, guys, that's been me. That's been my review of Game 6. I am pumped for Game 7 for what has been easily the best finals in a decade and certainly one of the 5 best series since 2000. Anyway, guys, that's been me. I'm out.